What if aging wasn't about losing youth, but about gaining a wisdom so deep it could finally set you free? Have you ever wondered why some people grow older and bitter, while others grow older and brighter like fine wine, richer with every passing year? The truth is, peace in midlife doesn't just happen. It's not given by time, it's earned through choices, mistakes, and lessons we carry. Today, we'll explore 9 timeless lessons, truths that turn aging into a gift. Lessons that can help you release comparison, embrace simplicity, live boldly, and finally, stop worrying about what others think, because aging is not the end of the story. It's the chapter where everything becomes clear. Lesson 1: always choose what is right, not what is easy in life. The easiest road is often the most tempting. It requires less effort, less sacrifice, less conflict. But here's the question: if the easy road takes you further from your values, is it truly the easier road, or just the road that costs you more in the end? When we are young, we often choose convenience over conscience. A shortcut on an exam, a white lie to avoid responsibility, a decision made to please others rather than to stay true to ourselves. At first, these choices feel harmless, just a way to get by. But as time passes, we begin to see that every easy choice carries a silent weight. It shapes our habits, it molds our character, and eventually, it determines the life we live. The Stoics often said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, choosing the right path, even when it hurts, even when it costs you something, is what slowly builds a life of integrity." And integrity, once earned, becomes a peace that no one can steal. Let me share a story. There was once a woman in her 40s, successful, admired, envied. But behind the scenes, she was exhausted because her success was built on doing what was convenient, not what was right. She stayed in business partnerships that drained her because it was easier than confronting betrayal. She smiled in friendships that were toxic because it was easier than walking away. She accepted promotions that robbed her time with her children because it was easier than saying no. Years later, she confessed, "I did not live my life. I lived the life others demanded because it was easier than choosing myself." The price of the easy road had been her freedom. Now contrast this with another story. A man I once knew walked away from a secure career, one that promised him wealth and recognition, because he realized it would demand his silence on issues he cared about. He chose honesty over applause, truth over comfort. For years, he struggled. He worked harder than most, but he lived with a clear conscience. And when people asked him if he regretted it, he always smiled. "I may not have lived the easiest life, but I lived a life that was mine." This is the heart of the lesson. The easy road is rarely the right one. The right road often asks for courage, sacrifice, and even pain. But it gives you something far more valuable than comfort. It gives you self-respect. Think of it this way: every decision plants a seed. The easy decision plants weeds. They grow fast, but they choke you later. The right decision plants oak trees. They grow slowly, but they stand for generations. So ask yourself today, are you choosing what is convenient or what is true? Are you living by other people's expectations or by your own values? When the road splits, will you take the one that pleases the crowd or the one that lets you sleep peacefully at night? The first great wisdom of aging is this: life rewards those who choose what is right, not what is easy. Because when the storms come, and they always do, only the right road will give you shelter. Lesson 2: accepting loss and impermanence. One of the hardest truths to face in life is this: everything is temporary. We resist it, we deny it, we try to hold on. But no matter how tightly we cling, Time will open our fingers one by one until we are forced to let go. In youth, we imagine permanence. We think our bodies will always be strong, our friends will always stay close, our loved ones will always be by our side. We even imagine money, success, or beauty will protect us from change. But aging is the patient teacher that whispers, nothing stays forever. And that is not a curse, it is a gift. Loss is painful, yes, but impermanence is what makes every moment precious. Imagine if flowers never faded, would spring still move us so deeply? Imagine if sunsets never ended, would we rush to the window to watch one more time? It is the fleeting nature of life that awakens gratitude. Let me tell you about a man I met in his 80s. His wife of 50 years passed away after a long illness. For months, he sat alone at the dining table, staring at her empty chair. At first, his grief was crushing. He felt robbed, broken, abandoned. But slowly, something changed. One morning, he told me, I began to see her in every sunrise. I hear her laughter in the voices of children. I feel her warmth when a stranger smiles at me. She is gone, but love has not left. This is the transformation of wisdom. Loss doesn't disappear, it softens into memory, it reshapes into gratitude. Another story. I once knew a woman who lost her only son. For years, she wore black, as if to announce her grief to the world. But one spring, she planted roses in her garden again. When asked why, she said, my son would not want me to stop living. Every bloom reminds me that love never truly dies, it just changes form. Impermanence doesn't only mean death. It is in every stage of our life. Friendships fade, jobs change, health weakens, even our own reflection in the mirror shifts year after year. At first, this feels cruel. But look deeper. Impermanence also means renewal. It means pain doesn't last forever. It means every dark season will pass. Marcus Aurelius wrote, do not mourn what is lost. Be grateful that it was once given. So, how do we live with impermanence? Not by resisting it, not by pretending it doesn't exist, but by embracing it as the law of life, by holding what we love gently without trying to cage it, by enjoying the sunrise without demanding it lasts forever, by saying thank you to every chapter. Even as we turn the page, ask yourself, are you clinging to something that has already ended? Do you fear loss so much that you forget to live fully today? Can you trust that letting go is not the end, but the beginning of a new season? Aging teaches us this profound truth. Impermanence is not the enemy of life. It is the very reason life shines. The leaf that falls in autumn enriches the soil. The farewell you dreaded may be the doorway to a new joy. The loss you fear may one day become the gratitude you cherish. Lesson 3: Joy in the simple things. When we finally accept impermanence, something magical happens. We stop chasing what cannot last, and we begin to notice the treasures that were always within reach. Happiness was never hiding in distant dreams, it was quietly waiting in the simplest things around us. In youth, we often confuse joy with excitement. We think we must travel far, climb higher, earn more, or collect more applause. But in midlife and beyond, we begin to see joy does not require a stage, it thrives in the ordinary. I once visited a woman in her late 70s. She lived alone in a small cottage by the countryside, with 2 dogs and a cat. No luxury, no fortune, no titles. Yet when I asked if she was ever lonely, she smiled and said, not at all. I have my morning tea, the birds that sing by my window, and the cat that curls beside me. Happiness is here, it has always been here. The only difference is that now, I finally see it. Another story. There was a retired teacher who kept a small garden. Nothing grand, just tomatoes, peppers, and a few roses. Every afternoon, she would water her plants. One day, she told me, "These plants don't care about my past. They don't care about my mistakes. They only ask for water, sunlight, and patience. And in return, they feed me, they bloom for me. They remind me that life is simpler than we think. Joy in the simple things is also a kind of freedom. When you find peace in a shared meal, in laughter with a friend, or in a sunrise after a long night, you are no longer chained by the world's demands for more. The soul learns to rest. The heart learns to breathe." Even an old fisherman once told me, "I don't chase big catches anymore. I sit by the shore, throw my line, and if the fish come, good. If not, I still have the waves, the wind, and the horizon. That is enough." Think about it, how much of our stress comes not from life itself, but from wanting life to be bigger, faster, louder. The Stoics reminded us that contentment does not come from multiplying possessions, but from reducing desires. To live wisely is to delight in small, honest joys. The quiet of dawn before the world wakes. A warm bowl of soup on a cold night. A walk where you notice the sound of leaves beneath your feet. A conversation where someone truly listens. These are not minor things, they are life itself. When you realize that happiness is not something you chase, but something you uncover, gratitude naturally follows, and here lies the hidden paradox. The more you celebrate the simple things, the richer your life becomes. The person who demands little from life ends up receiving more than the one who demands everything. The world shouts, "Chase bigger pleasures. Collect more, shine more, prove more," but the soul craves something gentler, quieter, truer, and once the heart learns to rest in simplicity, it also learns the courage to be free, to no longer live for the applause of others, but to walk lightly with its own truth. Lesson 4: Freedom of the soul. When the heart learns joy in simple things, it naturally begins to ask a deeper question. If happiness is already here, then what chains keep me from living fully? The answer is often invisible. It is not iron bars or heavy locks. It is the weight of obligations we did not choose, expectations we do not believe in, and bitterness we never released. Many believe freedom means doing whatever you want, travel where you please, buy what you desire, say what you like. But true freedom is not about adding more choices. It is about removing the chains that quietly bind your spirit. The Stoics taught that the soul is never free when it is ruled by anger, by fear, or by the endless need to please others. Aging, if we listen, gives us the courage to finally say no to relationships that drain us. No to endless duties that steal our peace. No to carrying resentments that poison the heart. I once heard the story of a businessman who spent 4 decades working tirelessly to satisfy both his family and society. By the time he retired, his health was fragile, and he admitted, "I lived more years for others than for myself. But with gray hair, I've learned a new word: enough." It was not selfishness that saved him, it was wisdom. There was also a retired teacher, known in her community for saying yes to everyone. She attended every committee, volunteered for every neighbor, sacrificed her weekends for relatives. She thought this was love, but deep down, it was exhaustion disguised as duty. When she finally said no, when she chose time for painting, long walks, and silent prayers, her friends said she looked younger, lighter, almost glowing. Freedom gave her back not only her soul, but her years. Another elder, a widower, confessed that he kept hosting large family dinners out of guilt. He feared that if he stopped, his children and grandchildren would stop visiting. One day, he dared to take a break. To his surprise, They still came, but this time they brought food for him. He laughed and said, "I was free, and I was still loved." Freedom of the soul is not rebellion. It is not shouting against the world. It is quiet alignment, choosing what truly nourishes you and letting go of what does not. This is why freedom is not selfish. It is the deepest form of wisdom. Only when you free yourself can you love others without resentment, without the hidden poison of obligation. Think about it. When you are chained, every act of kindness feels heavy. But when you are free, kindness flows naturally, lightly, abundantly. Aging, then, is not the shrinking of life, it is the widening of choice. Not choices offered by the world, but choices you finally give yourself. And once the soul is free, a new power awakens, gratitude. Because only when the heart is no longer crowded with noise can it notice the blessings scattered everywhere. Gratitude is not an afterthought, it is the song of a free soul. Lesson 5: Gratitude as a way of life. If freedom of the soul is the doorway to peace, then gratitude is the garden you discover on the other side. Gratitude is not a single thank you, it is a way of seeing life itself. It changes how your eyes notice, how your heart feels, and how your soul carries both joy and sorrow. When you wake in the morning and feel the sun warming your face, whisper thank you. When you take a breath, remember someone, somewhere, is taking their very last. When someone smiles at you in passing, hold it like treasure, because in that instant, life handed you a gift no money can buy. The wise do not measure what is missing, they count what remains. There was once a grandfather who kept a small, leather notebook by his bedside. Each night, he wrote 3 things he was grateful for. Some nights, the list was grand news from his children, a family reunion, a song that brought back old memories. Other nights, it was so simple. The taste of hot soup, the comfort of his blanket, the moonlight shining through his window. He told me once, "When I die, I want this notebook beside me, because it proves my life was full." Another elder I knew had a habit of collecting pebbles on his daily walks. Each pebble marked one moment of gratitude. After 10 years, he had jars full. He didn't own much, but when he looked at those jars, he smiled and said, "Every stone reminds me I lived richly." Gratitude turns ordinary days into miracles. It turns aging into blessing instead of burden. Think of the woman who lost her husband yet still found beauty in every sunrise, saying, "Each morning, I see him in the light." Her grief didn't vanish, it transformed into gratitude. Or the man who planted roses after losing his son, whispering, "Every bloom is proof that love never dies." Epictetus said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for what he lacks, but rejoices for what he has." This is not blind optimism. Gratitude does not ignore pain. It does not erase loss. What it does is soften the heart so that sorrow and joy can exist together like sunlight filtering through rain. And here lies the secret. The more gratitude you practice, the more life gives you reasons to be grateful. It is as if the universe responds to the posture of your heart. Try it every morning. Write one thing you are thankful for. With time, you'll notice how the list grows. You'll see blessings you once ignored. You'll begin to live not in scarcity, but in abundance. This is why gratitude is not just an attitude. It is a discipline, a daily practice that reshapes how you live, how you love, and how you age. Gratitude does not change the years you have. It changes the life inside those years. So if you wish to age like wine, do not chase what slips away. Instead, treasure what is already in your hands, because one day, you will realize it was enough. Lesson 6: Listening to your inner voice. Gratitude softens the heart. And in that softened heart, a quieter wisdom appears. The voice within. For most of our lives, we are drowned in noise. The advice of friends, the expectations of family, the demands of society, the endless comparisons on screens that tell us what to buy, who to be, how to live. In all this, our own inner voice, the one that knows us best, becomes faint, almost forgotten. But aging teaches us something powerful. Silence is not empty. Silence is full of answers. There was a man I once knew, a teacher who spent decades following the path others set for him. He became respected, but never truly happy. Only after retirement did he admit, "I don't know who I am without the noise." It was only then, in quiet mornings on his porch with a cup of tea, that he began hearing his own thoughts again. He started painting, writing letters, walking in the woods. He said, "I finally hear my soul speak, and it has been waiting for me all along." Your inner voice does not shout. It whispers. It is the gentle nudge that tells you not to trust someone who smiles too widely. It is the discomfort in your chest when you are about to make a choice that betrays your values. It is the deep calm you feel when you walk away from chaos. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you feed your mind only the noise of others, your soul takes their colors. But when you sit in stillness, your true colors emerge." I remember a woman in her 70s who always let her family decide everything from where to live to how she dressed. One day, she confessed to me, "I've lived everyone else's life but mine." But then she smiled. She had started journaling. At first, her words were hesitant, but over time, her pages became bold. She said, "I'm finally listening to me. And for the first time, I feel free." To listen to your inner voice is not to reject others. It is to return home to the wisdom planted in you from the beginning. How do you hear it? Through stillness, through solitude, through moments without distraction, walking in the park, sitting quietly at dawn, praying, meditating, or simply breathing deeply before speaking. Your inner voice is not always comfortable. Sometimes it tells you hard truths. That a relationship is over, that a job is crushing your spirit, that you are running from yourself. But if you have the courage to listen, it will never mislead you. Think back. How many times in your life did your instinct warn you, but you ignored it? And later, with regret, you whispered to yourself, "I knew it." With age, you learn to trust that whisper sooner, to obey it with fewer doubts. And in doing so, you save yourself from pain you once thought was inevitable. Lesson 6 is this: trust the voice within, because the world will always speak loudly. But the deepest wisdom, the one that will carry you through storms, comes not from the crowd, but from your own soul. Lesson 7: keep learning. Stay curious. If listening to your inner voice keeps you true to yourself, then staying curious keeps you alive. Curiosity is not just for the young. It is the secret fire that keeps the soul vibrant, no matter your age. I once knew an 84-year-old woman who decided to learn Spanish because she wanted to speak with her neighbors. She laughed and said, "My memory is slower, but my joy is bigger." Every new word she learned gave her a spark of excitement. And when she finally exchanged a few sentences with her neighbor, she glowed like a teenager who had just discovered a new world. That is the magic of curiosity. It does not fade with age unless you let it. Too many people stop learning after school. They think wisdom is a box, filled once, then closed forever. But wisdom is not a box. It is a river. And a river that stops flowing soon grows stagnant. There was an old craftsman who used to repair clocks. After retiring, he felt his hands were too shaky for the delicate gears. He could have stopped there, But instead, he took up gardening. He told me, "I still fix things. Only now, they are living things." His backyard became a place of wonder, filled with orchids and tomatoes, and his heart stayed young because he allowed himself to be a beginner again. The beauty of aging is that you finally understand. You don't need to master everything. You only need to remain open, read books that challenge your thinking, travel, even if it is just to the next town, learn an instrument, even if you only play simple notes. Ask questions, especially the ones that make you uncomfortable. Seneca once said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." Aging does not mean closing your book. It means adding new chapters. Some of the greatest artists, writers, and thinkers created their masterpieces late in life because they kept their minds open, their hearts curious. I remember meeting a retired soldier who took up painting at 70. His first canvases were clumsy, full of smudges, but he laughed at them. By 75, his work hung in local galleries. He said, "I used to fight battles outside. Now I paint the battles within." His curiosity gave him not just a hobby, but healing. Curiosity is also an act of humility. It means admitting, "I do not know everything. I can still grow. I can still change." So many elders I meet who radiate peace share the secret. They are not done learning. They study philosophy. They learn new technologies. They explore spirituality. One of them told me, "Curiosity is God's way of reminding me that I'm still alive." Lesson 7 is this: never stop learning, never stop asking, never stop growing, because a curious soul is never old. Lesson 8: believe in yourself. No matter what others think, you can master gratitude. You can free your soul. You can learn every day, but if you do not believe in yourself, all of it fades. One of the greatest prisons in life is living for the opinions of others. We chase approval like children chasing balloons in the wind, always just out of reach, always fragile enough to pop. I once met a man in his late 70s who confessed he had lived most of his life by the expectations of his relatives. He worked a job he hated because that's what respectable men do. He married quickly because everyone else his age was settling down. He bought a house far too big for his needs because that's what success looks like. And then, in old age, when he finally sat alone in his quiet house, he said to me, "I realized I had built my life as a monument to their voices, not my own." His story is not rare. How many of us live this way? When we are young, we crave applause. When we are older, we fear judgment. But wisdom comes when we finally see other people's opinions cannot carry us through life. Think of a tree. It does not twist its branches to please the birds. It grows toward the sun because that is its nature, and in doing so, it still gives shade, fruit, and shelter without ever asking permission. Believing in yourself does not mean arrogance. It means recognizing your worth without demanding that others agree. I knew a widow in her 60s who always dreamed of painting, but her family mocked the idea. At your age, who would care? For years, she listened until one day she quietly picked up a brush. Within 5 years, her paintings were being sold at local fairs. She smiled and said, "I wasted decades doubting myself. Now, I no longer need anyone's permission." Her joy did not come from fame or money. It came from the simple act of finally honoring herself. We must understand this truth. The crowd's voice is loud, but it is not wise. One moment, they cheer. The next, they condemn. If you live by their approval, you will die by their rejection. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people. but we care more about their opinion than our own. To age peacefully is to finally break this chain. To look in the mirror and say, I am enough. I am not defined by their applause, nor diminished by their silence. Lesson 8 is this: believe in yourself, even when no one else does. Because the moment you stop asking for permission to live, you begin to truly live. Lesson 9: don't worry about what others think through life. We spend so much time looking over our shoulders wondering, what will they think if I fail? What will they say if I change? What if I don't live up to their expectations? But here is the truth. Most people are too busy worrying about themselves to think about you for long. I once met a grandmother in her 80s who laughed when I asked if she still cared what others thought. She said, "For 70 years I wore masks. I dressed to please. I spoke to avoid judgment. I lived like a guest in my own life. But when I turned 70, I realized no one was watching as closely as I imagined. They had their own troubles, their own fears. So why waste the little time I had left? Now, I wear my favorite colors, I sing loudly in church even off-key, and I dance in the kitchen at night. And guess what? No one cares. And if they do let them, her freedom was not given to her. She claimed it. Think about it. The people whose opinions you fear, where will they be in 10 years? Some will be gone. Some will be lost in their own struggles. And yet you gave them the power to control your joy today. It is like handing your keys to a stranger and begging them to decide whether you can drive. Don't give away that power. When my friend lost her husband, she decided to sell her big house and move into a small seaside cottage. Her relatives whispered, "She's lost her mind. How will she survive alone?" But she told me, "For the first time in decades, I feel alive. The sea heals me. Their opinions don't pay my bills or dry my tears. So why should they guide my life?" Her story is a mirror for us all. Opinions fade, but the cost of ignoring your heart lasts forever. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others." To age wisely is to finally let go of this burden, not recklessly, not arrogantly, but with the quiet strength of someone who knows, I have only one life. I cannot waste it living as a shadow of myself. So, do not worry about what others think, because at the end of your days, their whispers will not matter. Your peace will, your joy will, your truth will.